So let's talk about professional tennis, because right now the sport is at a breaking point. And I'm not talking about what's happening on the court. Off the court, there's this high stakes battle raging, a conflict that could literally redefine the entire future of the sport. It's a huge story about ambition, a ton of money, player welfare, and a massive power struggle at the very top.
And just to set the stage, listen to this from top player Alexander Zverev.
There is no sport in which so much is played.
That one sentence right there gets to the absolute heart of the problem we're digging into today. Are the insane demands of pro tennis pushing its greatest athletes past their limits? To really get what's going on, we have to start with the plan that kicked this all off. It was this big, ambitious proposal that was supposed to unify the sport, but, well, it ended up sparking a huge controversy instead. At the center of all this is a single 23-page document. In early 2024, the men's and women's pro tours, that's the ATP and WTA, they teamed up and took this proposal to the four biggest tournaments in the world, the Grand Slams. This was supposed to be their blueprint for the future of tennis. So what was actually in this big proposal? It was a total overhaul. The plan was to create this top tier of 10 elite Masters 1000 events. Those are the biggest tournaments outside of the Slams. And yep, that included a pretty controversial new tournament in Saudi Arabia. The plan also wanted to shrink the tour, consolidating the smaller 500-level events and getting rid of a bunch of the even smaller 250s. To run it all, they proposed a new board and a new commercial group called Tennis Ventures to package up all the media rights. The goal? A leaner, richer, and way more centralized sport. Okay, so you have this big corporate vision for a slick, streamlined sport, but it immediately ran headfirst into a very, very human problem. The athletes, the ones actually playing the game, started speaking up with some really serious concerns. And Zverev, well, he did not hold back. He basically framed it as a choice: money or the player's well-being. And his feeling, which a lot of other players share, is that the stars of the show, the players themselves, have been totally cut out of decisions that are going to directly impact their careers and, their health.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The players are actually divided on this. On one side, you have a growing group saying the season is just dangerously long. I mean, it runs from late December all the way through November. They feel overworked and powerless. But then on the other side, you have players like Emma Raducanu saying, hey, we make a great living. Top players moaning about the calendar isn't a great look. It's that classic debate, right? Player health versus the financial opportunities. So this brings us to the real million-dollar question. Are these just the gripes of some overworked, well-paid athletes? Or is there actual, measurable, scientific proof that the tour's relentless schedule is taking a serious toll? Well, it turns out the answer is a pretty clear yes. We gotta look past the opinions for a second and dive into the actual science of it all. The key idea we have to wrap our heads around is something called cognitive fatigue. Now, this is way more than just feeling tired. It's a very specific kind of mental exhaustion that happens when you put the brain under a massive, sustained load. Like, say, being an elite athlete. Think of it like your brain is being forced to run a marathon day after day. And this word cloud just shows it perfectly. It illustrates what creates that cognitive load. High-performance coaches pointed to this whole storm of stressors. You see the big words jumping out at you: pressure, stress, time, information. It's not just about hitting a tennis ball. It's the non-stop travel, the high-stakes decisions every second, and just processing endless tactical information week after week. So, okay, what's the result of all that pressure? Well, this second word cloud shows us the consequences. Now the words that pop are things like decision-making, overloaded, ability, and concentration. Cognitive fatigue leads to a direct breakdown of the very skills that make an athlete elite in the first place. And this has a real, tangible impact right there on the court. We're talking about slower decision-making, which is absolutely fatal in a sport where everything is measured in milliseconds. It causes decreased accuracy, huge lapses in concentration, and it can even mess with your physical movement. Basically, this kind of fatigue can make it impossible for a player to execute skills they've spent their entire life perfecting. So you've got players feeling the strain, you've got the science backing them up. The stage was pretty much set for a major showdown between the tours and the most powerful forces in the sport, the four Grand Slams. So how did the four Grand Slams react to this grand vision from the ATP and WTA? The answer was swift, and it was brutal.
A terse rejection. They just flat out said no.
But they didn't just reject the plan. They came back with their own vision. The Slams want an even more streamlined, super elite, premium tour that's built around their own events, giving them more control and a bigger piece of the pie. So with these two powerful, totally conflicting visions for the future, the sport was just stuck, left in a state of paralysis, with both sides as far apart as ever.
Which leaves us with the final, absolutely critical question. You've got the suits at the ATP and WTA with their plan. You've got the stars, the players, warning about burnout and demanding a seat at the table. And then you have the slams, the 4 most powerful tournaments with their own agenda entirely. With everyone at a stalemate, who's going to blink first? The entire future of professional tennis is hanging in the balance.